Let's introduce ourselves. Andy, please start. Will you introduce yourself for the audience?
Hey, Alex, how are you? First of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm Andy Arias. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm Latinx, queer, and disabled. I'm a national policy advisor. I do a lot of public speaking. And right now I work for a big university on the East Coast on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I grew up in foster care and in systemic poverty. So that's always a part of my experience and my story. And like you, I have CP. So thank you for being patient on my timing today.
Thanks, Andy. I'm Alex Motteler, Advocacy Specialist for Trillium. My job is to advance employment services for people with disabilities. I do this by advocating for policy changes with the legislature and internally, sharing my personal experience and perspectives to equip employment consultants to deliver the best services.
It's so good to meet you. That's awesome.
I am a college graduate who moved out of my parents' house seeking independence in 2018. After moving, my first goal was to try to get a job in my new community, and I had some difficulties getting started. My vocational rehabilitation counselor tried to connect me with several agencies that would provide me with a job coach. When I said I wanted to try administrative work, the first job coach wanted to assess my skills shredding. With only the use of one hand, you can imagine that did not go well. The real struggle was that they could not imagine any other job for me. I did not really have a career advocate. I was connected to a better job coach and pitched an advocacy position. Today, I train job coaches and advocate to the legislature about the importance of employment services for people with disabilities. When I see how accomplished you are in your career as an actor, advocate, and change maker, I wonder, did you experience barriers from the people who were supposed to serve you?
Yeah, actually, I really did. It's interesting that you asked that because when I was in foster care, I don't know if you know what sheltered work is or, institutionalization. But when I was about 16 years old, my social workers and all, even VR was like, maybe you want to try sheltered work. And it was like, that's cute for you, but I'm not doing that. So I said, either we're going to figure this out together, or I'm going to figure it out myself. So I broke away from all systems, from VR, from Medicaid, from Social Security, and like disappeared for 2 years while I was going to college in order to get my first job. Because like you, when I was looking for employment, people didn't want to hire me. And my VR counselor said, well, just go to school and we'll worry about your career later. But I needed money now. Social Security, as you know, we work because Social Security isn't enough money to live off of. So I really had to push my own independence because I was living on my own and I needed to pay all my bills. So I faced a lot of systemic barriers finding my first jobs. And then I got lucky because most of my jobs now have been because of my experience and word of mouth.
I'm just building my own confidence and skills in navigating public transportation. Last month, I was frustrated waiting for the paratransit service that was late picking me up from my office. I had just listened to some of your posts on social media, and it inspired me to ditch the wait and map out the public buses I needed to take for my commute. It was really liberating. What guidance would you offer people who want more independence, but are nervous or scared?
I would say to you and other people, that's really awesome that I was able to inspire that. I'm scared a lot in my experiences being an adult and being disabled. But if I'm scared of something, that usually means that I should do it because I don't want to be scared of anything. And so, before I started driving a car, I used to take public transit. And actually, public transit's scarier than driving a car. So I commend you for that. But I really think that as disabled people, we have to adapt to our society all the time. So it's really about calculating the fear so we're not afraid and we find joy in the adventure. Like, I travel all over the world now, and even though I don't know the language or the people, I really find joy in it, even though it's a little nerve-wracking and scary.
I am interested in you as an LGBTQ plus person with cerebral palsy who wants to buck the system. What guidance do you have about how we can best support LGBTQ plus people with disabilities to be part of the workforce and their community? What are we missing in our current support models?
I feel like the support models always want to put us in a box, right? Like, this is your disability, so this is what you're able to do. And I feel like if you have any other intersections, like you're queer or Latinx, I feel like they don't know what to do with you. Actually, it freaks them out because you don't fit the cookie cutter mold. So I think as much as we need to check the box in our systems, we need to check ourselves first and realize that disability comes in every color, shape, and orientation. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm leading that charge and voice because for a long time, we've only looked at disability through a white, straight lens. And I'm just saying, hello, hi, that's not true. And there are a lot of disabled queer people out there. They're just not able to be open or share their experience because society tells them that they're not equal. And I think society needs to get over themselves and deal with the diversity that's in front of them to make it easier for us to be able to be our authentic selves.
Can we talk about technology? You can see that I rely on technology to get around and communicate. Is there a new way we can look at technology as a standardized inclusive best practice?
It's so funny you say that because I feel that everything we develop for people with disabilities, non-disabled people end up taking advantage of, which includes elevators, voice to text, all the things. All my friends who don't have disabilities don't even text anymore. They use their voice to communicate. So I look at technology like this. Your technology is great because it helps you, live independently, because anything after but is like an excuse. And knowing that whatever we develop for you and me, other people are going to take advantage of it. So knowing that when you develop something for people with disabilities, it's not developing it just for you. It's developing it to make it a better world. Think of autonomous vehicles, Teslas. They drive their freaking selves, right? And so if a Tesla was accessible, like you could get in it in your power chair, you'd be able to drive without a problem, without having to go to Vogue Rehab or pay like $80,000 to get a retrofitted van, So technology has the ability to be more equitable and accessible. They're just choosing not to be. And they need to figure out the balance between accessibility and being really cool and allowing people to sleep in their cars when they don't need to just do that. They need to also be accessible to people like you and me.
This is such a fantastic opportunity to interview you. Thanks for making the trip out to the Pacific Northwest. What else do you want to plant in the minds of employment consultants and self-advocates who want to ensure employment services are working for everyone?
I would say when somebody rolls or comes into your office with a disability, don't underestimate their potential. You have difficulty speaking. One of my best friends, Motteler, shout out to her, she can't speak very well and she uses a communicator. She's the person who speaks for her. But she's constantly underestimated, even though she has a bachelor's degree from Berkeley and she's almost a genius. And yet when we go out, people their ableist view of who she is really ticks me off, but it's even harder in the employment realm because employers or service providers look at her like she's less than. So I would say this to anybody in the field of disability: don't be in the field because you want to feel better about yourselves. Be in the field of disability because you want to make an equitable impact in the world of people with disabilities, and you want to make it a more equitable, equal space for all of us. And the thing I would say is that anyone at any moment can be disabled. So anyone can get in an accident or become disabled. And would they want their equity or equalness being taken away and looked at like a child or like an infant? Because sometimes when people look at me or look at my independence, they're always judging it. Like, why don't you have somebody with you? Why isn't someone here to help you? And I'm like, because when I need that, I'll use it. When I don't need it, oh, I don't need it. And so I just think people need to shift the perception when they look at people like you and I, because we are more than just the vessels that we live in.
Thanks for interviewing with me. I know this meant a lot to me and will be valuable to others who are driving for more inclusive workplaces and community spaces. I think people need to see that you and I get creative when we need to be. How can people see this?
I think that the onus of us being creative, unfortunately, right now has to come from us, right? And we have to be a little louder, a little prouder, a little more like in your faith when it comes to our abilities. You and I, we're blazing trails in a lot of ways for the generation after us, because there isn't going to be individuals that are going to be like, I can't do this. I can't have a podcast. I can't be an actor. I can't be a policy advisor or change policy for others. And we can do it. But I think right now, because we live in such an ableist society, you and I still have to push the needle for ourselves. And hopefully other people will come along, and hopefully non-disabled people will join in the fight. Not fight for us, but fight with us, because I can't stand it when people fight for me because I don't need it, but I want them to join with me in the effort, not do it for me. This was awesome. Thank you so much. I think that what you're doing is cool, and I want to keep in touch because I think you and I can cause some trouble together, which is really nice. Trouble's good.